with a past unrivaled in intellectual richness, with true claim to the very meaning of the finest aspiration of the human heart and mind, we stand with respect before Greece, the very foundation of Western civilization. This land and many islands which up the southern tip of the Balkan Peninsula has some of the most unusual topography of any European nation. Here the abundant stone of the surrounding hills paves the streets and walls the houses for her people who live in picturesque villages, where the colorful costumes of this ancient and historic land are still a part of the everyday scene. The village women, distaff in hand, still spin the cotton and wool into thread, which they will weave into cloth. It's all a part of the fascinating picture that is Greece. The next time you plan a trip, fly above the weather in complete comfort. You'll find this to be a new experience in international travel. Here is a man who recently made this flight.
Yes, I flew TWA over and back. And believe me, TWA's first-class Royal Ambassador service is unmatched. You enjoy your favorite cocktail in the comfortable lounge bar or relaxed in your armchair. TWA cocktails are delicious, made just right, and served in finest Swedish crystal. If you're traveling comfortable economy, you'll find the same wide variety of cocktails available at minimum prices, and they're served in the same gracious manner that has made TWA hospitality famous across the world. You lounge back and enjoy yourself as your giant TWA SUPERJET streaks through the stratosphere at 600 miles an hour. Then it's time for dinner. Time for you to be served with those hot, tasty TWA meals, to dine heartily on beautifully prepared entrees. Top all this with dessert and coffee freshly brewed on board, and you've had one of the finest meals in flight. As a guest in first class, your Royal Ambassador dinner rivals cuisine prepared in the world's finest restaurants. You have your choice of 7 gourmet entrees, brought to you on the cart, carved to your special taste, and served on fine Rosenthal china. I've never seen anything that can compare with TWA's Royal Ambassador food and fine wines. They're fabulous. So the next time you go to Greece, treat yourself to incomparable luxury aboard dependable TWA SUPERJETs. And remember, when you do, you fly with veteran American crews trained to highest government standards. Nationwide or worldwide, wherever I go, I always fly TWA.
This is the gateway to Greece, to fields of exploration, and as old as the mythology of prehistoric gods and goddesses. A mixture of ancient legends and factual history, of familiar names like Ulysses and Agamemnon, Socrates and Plato. Athens today is very much a part of the 20th century, a metropolis of nearly 1.5 million inhabitants. This is the center of the city, of civic and national activity, known as Constitution Square. Above the square stands the former palace of the kings of Greece. Today it is the Greek House of Parliament. The broad streets and fine buildings you see here today are of recent design and construction, for this is, in a developing sense, a new nation. As you observe these Athenians in the downtown business section, it's hard to believe that modern progress was so late in coming to Athens, today one of the liveliest capital cities in Europe. This means in Athens what has meant the world over: traffic police and motor-crowded streets, and of course the never-ending streams of pedestrians. This escalator leads up from the underground station of the Athens-Piraeus Electric Railway. The street peddler offers you a Greek bread roll as a midday snack. Or you're just as likely to see the sponge merchant selling sponges fresh from the Aegean Sea. Here's a characteristic sight in Athens: conversation at a sidewalk cafe over coffee and water. You've probably noticed that they seem to be counting the beads of rosary, but they have no religious significance. These are worry beads. Greek men click them to ward off silence whenever the conversation lags. The Greek Orthodox Church has been a major force in the attainment of Greek independence and the preservation of the Greek language and culture through many centuries of foreign domination. Today, the Church's influence touches on practically every phase of existence among the more than 7 million Orthodox communicants. The word neon is Greek in origin, and downtown Athens after dark is a dazzling forest of colored neon lights. As in New York, London, and Berlin, these neon signs advertise entertainment and Greek commercial products and services. Here you might say the Greeks have a word for it. In sharp contrast to modern Athens, but still within the city, stands the Thesein, a relic of ancient classical Athens. Today it is a favorite camera subject for foreign students and tourists. The Thesein was built in the 5th century BC and is said to be the best preserved temple in all of Greece. It is believed generally to have been dedicated to the god of artisans and blacksmiths in the ancient Greek world. Here you see what remains of a famous temple that exceeded all others in sheer size. It is the temple of Zeus, father of the gods, begun in the 6th century BC and not completed until 700 years later. It was described by Aristotle as ranking in magnitude with the Great Pyramids of Egypt. After Rome conquered Greece, the temple was finally consecrated by the Emperor Hadrian. Against a background of antiquity and situated in a central part of Athens is this modern public swimming pool. The Greeks are an outdoors people, especially the youth of the country, and swimming is a favorite pastime. During the summer months, these outdoor pools are always crowded. The King's Palace, residence of the chief executive of this crowned republic. And these F-zones form the King's Royal Honor Guard. These centuries of freedom might be ancient in their costuming, but they are modern to the hilt as they pace and perform, as though in cadence with the times. Greece has a proud history of freedom and deep respect for the decencies of man. These are the faces of men who many times have been overpowered, but never has their spirit been conquered. With such as these, Greece should continue to progress, strong and secure, in a world turbulent in its portent. In front of the Greek Parliament building is the memorial to Greece's unknown soldier. Here on guard are the colorfully costumed F-zones, wearing the pleated kilt that has been adopted as a national costume. Though many times invaded, Greece has stood firm and unconquerable. In that spirit is embodied the memory of the unknown warrior, here symbolically entombed, known only to his God. On Freedom Day, the military procession moves through the streets toward the memorial. The honor march and ceremony of the unknown soldier is a solemn yet colorful occasion. Here again are the famous Greek F zones in precision march formation. King Paul leads the impressive ceremony and lays the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier who gave his life that his country might live. The idea of a canal connecting the Ionian with the Aegean Sea at Corinth was studied by Julius Caesar and the Emperor Caligula. But it was Nero who actually began the excavation, striking the first blow with a golden pickaxe. Today, Greece not only has the Corinth Canal to serve her shipping, but an effective railway system as well. Not far from Athens is the monastery of Daphne. Besieged by Christian crusaders, desecrated by the Turks, Daphne nevertheless remains today as a fine example of Byzantine art and architecture. The monastery is comparatively new, only 900 years old, which makes it one of the few tourist attractions in Greece whose age is reckoned from AD rather than BC. Though predominantly an agricultural country, Greece grows only about half of the food consumed by its population. Many of its crops are for export: tobacco, grapes, figs, and olives. What we see here is an olive grove at the harvest time of the year. According to Greek mythology, the olive was a gift to mankind from the goddess Athena. In gratitude for this gift, Athens was named in her honor. Greece is famous for her olives. A large part of the crop is shipped abroad in whole form, treated in their own rich oil, or as processed products such as olive oil and other derivatives of this important fruit. Believe it or not, the tobacco growing in this field in Greece traces back to America, because the tobacco plant is native to the state of Virginia. From that original British colony, almost 350 years ago, tobacco was sent to England as a new and unusual product of the New World. It then soon spread to the West Indies and on to the Balkan Peninsula. Today, the manufacture of cigarettes from native-grown tobacco is one of the important industries of Greece, employing hundreds of workers, a large percentage of them women, who turn out millions of packages under modern production methods. We have traveled north to the city of Salonika, second city of Greece, with a population of almost 500,000. Yesterday, a lagging city of little hope. Today, a bright, busy city of steadily increasing industry and commercial activity. That's the story of Salonika's changing fortunes in the last few years. You see the signs of this real progress in the people, in the business activity of the city. And you also see it along the docks that berth the freight ships of all nations, a large percentage of which are of Greek registry, for shipping is one of Greece's most important industries, one of the largest employers of Greek labor. And as you see the activity of this second city of Greece, it is hard to realize that this was, for centuries, a veritable battlefield. One of the most famous landmarks in Greece is this Venetian White Tower. The largest and most important seaport in Greece is Piraeus, the seaport of Athens, located only about 6 miles from the city. Piraeus claims a colorful history. The port was planned by Themistocles, famous Greek statesman and naval commander, and was finished toward the end of the 5th century BC in the time of Pericles. Today, Piraeus is an industrial and maritime appendage of Athens, with many factories and long stretches of wharves and dockyards, crowded with ships flying the flags of just about every maritime nation in the world. Piraeus is known to most visitors because it is here that they board the vessels that will take them to visit many of Greece's wonderful islands. For example, Hydra in the Aegean Sea, a barren, high, rocky island, but always with its clean white houses, which are so typical of the Grecian islands. Long ago, in the day of the sailing ship, Hydra had an active merchant fleet of its own. But with the advent of steam, the island's maritime importance declined, and today its principal industries are sponge fishing and tourism. Now we are on the island of Aegina. These visitors, being true tourists at heart, have chosen the primitive but sure-footed means of transportation up the mountain trail that leads to the island's chief claim to fame. The temple of the goddess Aphaea, built in the 6th century BC. No other Greek temple in the islands is so well preserved, and even in Athens, its only rival is the Thessaian. We now approach the island of Corfu, off the northwest coast of Greece in the Ionian Sea. This was once a British possession, an important outpost of a once far-flung empire. But certainly this heritage has nothing to do with this husband and wife transportation relationship, very un-British. This is the Terrace of Lions on the island of Delos. These statues were symbolical guardians of what was a sacred sanctuary to the Ionian Greeks of long ago. In its heyday, Delos, the supposed birthplace of the god Apollo, was the most important island in antiquity. Today it has very few permanent inhabitants, but is frequently visited by tourists and students interested in the ruins of classical Greece. This is the great island of Rhodes, one of the most fascinating points of interest in the Mediterranean. Here, legend has it, the fabulous Colossus of Rhodes stood, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, astride this harbor until destroyed by earthquake in 227 BC. Although predominantly Greek, the city of Rhodes is a mixture of nationalities and architecture, European and Asian. Notice the Muslim minaret and mosque, for example. Actually, the city is divided into 2 sections: the inner walled town, now largely Turkish, and the more modern town of Rhodes outside the old walls, mainly Greek, with a representation of Italians from the time 1912 to 1945, when Rhodes belonged to Italy. The island of Mykonos had little importance in ancient times, but in this modern era, it has become a very popular holiday resort, not only for Athenians, but for travelers and sun worshippers from other European countries, and for tourists from America. In fact, during the past few years, it has gained something of an international reputation. Meet the pride and joy of Mykonos, Petros the pelican, not a fictional cartoon character, but a perpetually hungry, very much photographed, and superbly self-assured bird. Blown in from the sea and cared for by a local fisherman, Petros has become the good luck charm of the prospering island. This man of Mykonos is repairing his fishing net. a common piece of equipment here, and very important to these seacoast dwellers. The windmills have only a distant cousin relationship to the famous Dutch variety. They seem more picturesque than practical. Throughout Greece and its many islands, this is a familiar sight. Flocks of sheep tended by nomad shepherds. But here on the island of Mykonos, the sheep seem to provide an extra fine quality wool. Here wool is being carded in preparation for the loom. The weavers of Mykonos are well known throughout the shopping centers of Europe for their prolific turnout of fine woolen fabrics used in the fashioning of gaily colored scarves, towels, tablecloths, and Mykonos skirts, with a design of concentric stripes, which are quite the fashion among female tourists. Schooling in Greece today is a far cry from the low level of Greek education for many centuries and up to quite recent times. Of course, we all know that ancient Greece was the cradle of Western civilization and culture. We know that such Greek writers, philosophers, and scientists as Homer, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were shining ornaments of the human spirit and universal learning. They were the ancestors of these school children and their teachers. Yet, between the decline of ancient classical Greece, more than 2,000 years ago, and well into the 20th century, Greece had one of the lowest literacy rates in Europe. Not so today. As exemplified by these school scenes, education in Greece is decidedly on the upgrade. What we see here is primary education on Mykonos. Similar scenes can be duplicated throughout Greece, in the schools and colleges devoted to secondary and high levels of pedagogy, including the arts, sciences, and professions. But on the island of Mykonos, such matters as public education are rather academic, especially to the more elderly. Much more important is the question, what will happen to the island's present state of well-being when their good luck charm, Petros the pelican, is gone? The answer, they say, is in the lap of the gods. The volcanic soil of much of Greece and her islands is highly favorable to the cultivation of grapes. Vineyards, therefore, are a common sight almost everywhere you go in Greece and the Aegean Islands. This vineyard is on the island of Crete, and from its vines come pleasant wines. These rich grapes reach tables and markets throughout the world in various processed forms, mainly as raisins and as a varied assortment of wines. It is not generally known that about 1500 BC, while most of Europe was still in a state of barbarism, a brilliant civilization was already nearing its decline and fall here on the island of Crete. The recently unearthed palace of Knossos, one of the world's most amazing archaeological discoveries, is an impressive relic of that bygone epoch in the history of mankind. The original palace was built about 2000 BC, and it contains some of the most brilliant and best preserved artwork of that ancient civilization, so many centuries gone from the earth. Greek folklore is the heritage of a long tradition, with roots in the ancient pre-Christian era. The old gods and goddesses still survive in the superstitions and fairy tales, and in the Grecian folk songs and dances. In Crete, the Haniatiko, a circular dance, was originally performed by men preparing for battle. Through the centuries, however, it lost its warlike character and gradually acquired a love motif. Most of these country dances are performed in village squares, at weddings, on anniversaries, and on feast days, with the dancers usually wearing national or regional costumes. The traveler to Greece and the Greek islands usually begins and ends his journey in Athens, the fountainhead of Grecian history, art, and culture. And so, as our modern odyssey nears its end, we return to the city of Athens for a last moment in the heart of ancient classical Greece, as represented by the famous relic of her glorious past. First and foremost, on its lofty eminence in the center of the city, the Acropolis, the apogee of all that is good and noble in modern man. Then, for a renewal of awe and astonishment, the site of the Parthenon, dedicated to the goddess Athena. It took 9 full years to build, and its sculptural decoration was wrought by Phidias, the greatest sculptor of the age and any age since. This great edifice was built entirely of marble, which through the ages has taken on a warm, golden tint of wondrous beauty, an architectural paragon that combines the simplicity and complete harmony of perfect design. Thus the Parthenon, greatest monument of all antiquity, the modern symbol of the glory that was Greece.